I'm just about to start another business systemization course. It's called Systemscaping Live 2021. In the course, you build the foundation of your very own process-dependent business. And I basically walk you through step by simple step, the plan that we've used with hundreds and hundreds of companies of all different shapes and sizes in all different types of industries, so that by the end of the course, the goal is to have that foundation built. And I use that term foundation because you can't obviously have all of your processes written in 10 weeks. That's an ongoing thing. But if you have that foundation built, this is what you will start writing and implementing your processes following this organized and structured way. Now, as you get your processes in place, you're going to be in a better position to hire someone. And therefore, you're going to need some recruiting processes, some hiring processes, some onboarding and training processes, and some management processes. Well, one of the things that happens so often with small business owners is they grow, and you hear me talk about this incessantly over and over and over again, time and time and time. The business becomes dependent upon you. And then it's difficult to focus on the really important things because you're constantly being interrupted, you're putting out fires, you're chasing your tail all day long, never feeling like you're getting done what you need to be getting done. And if you're wearing all the hats, it's really hard to focus on what you really need to focus on. As Michael Gerber says, and you guys all know that we were eMyth consultants for many, many years. So we sort of follow Michael's sort of rule that your job is to work on your business, not in your business. And as an owner, or even as a senior manager of a department, that's what you need to be doing. You need to get ahead of the curve so that you're prepared, so that you're effective, so that you can feel productive, so that you are productive. So my guest today is Richard Schaal. Richard is the founder of a company called CEO Unleashed. Richard helps entrepreneurs who feel like they're stuck at the center of their business. Maybe they're wearing too many hats. We always say that. Maybe too many things depend on them. Well, he helps business owners build a self-managing leadership team. And sometimes that could be just one person, the next person that you need to hire so that you can get out from under these hats and delegate these tasks, responsibilities, processes to a capable leader. These tasks that are consuming you so that now you have the space to do that higher value activity, the stuff that you should be doing. Richard's team doesn't just talk this stuff. He will actually help you define the role, help you find what he calls your next lead hire, the person who you'll be able to delegate all this extra responsibility to so that you don't have to do it. And then his team will actually onboard and train that new hire so that you can start working on the business and focus on what you need to focus on, like growth. So I've invited Richard to be with me today to walk you through these processes and templates and tools he uses to accomplish this. It's so helpful because in our Systemscaping program, we're helping you build all this, but then you need to execute. And I think Richard's going to be a great asset to help you execute that. So Richard, welcome to the show. I turn it over to you, my friend.
Well, Michael, thanks for having me. And thank you guys all so much for taking time out of your busy day, the businesses you're leading, to be here with us. We consider that an honor. We know your time's valuable, and we want to provide value to you guys today. I just want to quickly say, before we dive into the meat and potatoes, Michael, thanks for what you do for entrepreneurs. As an entrepreneur, I know we've related on our story many times, who's been stuck in a non-process dependent business, a business that was very people dependent. I can say for a fact that what you guys do with TouchStone Business Systems is so important for helping entrepreneurs actually get what they want out of their business, which is time and financial freedom, and profitability that allows them to do more of what they love. And you can't do that in a business that doesn't have processes and it depends just on the owner and CEO. So thanks for what you guys do. Thanks for the amazing systematic brain you have that you lend to entrepreneurs through your courses. And I just commend that and think it's so valuable, so needed. And anybody who watching this should absolutely join Michael in the Systemscaping course if you're interested in having a business that doesn't entirely depend on you. So that's that being said, guys. before we just dive right into the presentation, I just want to affirm everything Michael said and just say I'm here to serve. And I'd love during Q&A to make all of this highly relevant to where you are, right? Every business is different. And whether you feel like your, leadership team is humming and you're just kind of more like optimizing the small things, or you feel like, man, we don't even have a leadership team. We don't have A players. I've got a bunch of subcontractors and people that I, barely trust to, open the door. Wherever you fall on that spectrum, right? There's going to be something for you today. So I encourage you to take notes and ask questions in the chat, because we're going to get into some good stuff in the Q&A if we all do that. So guys, if you're an entrepreneur who can't seem to get free from the day-to-day of your company so you can focus on growth, you're in the right place today, okay? We are here to help you. And in the next few minutes, I want to show you guys exactly how our company, right, has helped hundreds of entrepreneurs just like you free up 30 hours a week to focus on growth as the CEO, and then oftentimes go on to double their businesses within 6 months after, because they get the right team and right systems and processes in place to replace themselves at the center. How do you actually hire true A players to attract, recruit, hire, and onboard A players who can actually help run the day-to-day for you, own and operate and improve your processes so that you can focus on growth as the CEO? I want to share with you guys what we've kind of condensed down are the 3 essential roles of a CEO, right? What does a CEO actually do when you're trying to go, okay, I'm not an entrepreneur anymore, I'm a CEO, I got to build a team. But what do you actually do as a CEO? And it really comes down to 3 things, right? Number one, it's to create and communicate clarity, right? As the CEO, you must create and communicate clarity. This is vision, values, strategic plan, the operational priorities. Where are we going and what do we need to focus on, right? Number 2 is to assemble an A player team, right? And these two go in tandem, because you need an A player team to actually execute on that vision, strategic plan, and operational priorities, right? You got to have that A player team. And as a CEO, this is one of your number 1 jobs, is to assemble this A player team. And then finally, number 3 is to drive business growth, right? With the time that's freed up, it's your job as the CEO to always fix the money problem, always keep the business on the forefronts of expansion, and kind of living in the future, making sure that the business, that, future bottlenecks are removed, so the business can continue to grow. All right. So with that in mind, guys, I want to talk to you about that first role, which is to create and communicate clarity today. In order to hire an A player team that is self-managing, the first thing that you're going to need is a CEO strategic plan. The CEO strategic plan. Now, what I want to kind of clarify for a minute here is what I mean when I say a vision or a CEO strategic plan. Really 4 components to this that I found you have to have in order to create and communicate clarity to your team and ultimately attract the caliber of A players you need for that team. Okay. Number 1 is team identity, right? Who are we here? What are our values? And what are the habits that embody those values? Okay. Who are we here? What are our values? And what are the habits that embody those values? That's team identity. Number 2 is team purpose. This is why we exist. It's why we show up every day. And it's the filtering and guiding mechanism for the entire organization. It's sort of like your GPS, where it helps you know, are we making decisions that are aligned with our purpose, or are we getting distracted and off track because of shiny stuff, as an old mentor of mine used to say. This is a big challenge for a lot of entrepreneurial teams that are constantly pivoting, and they constantly feel like their people can't make decisions without them. Oftentimes we find that the purpose of the organization is not clear, and so therefore your team does not have a lens through which to make decisions. Okay. Without a clear purpose, you also cannot create really good processes. Okay. Because all of your processes and people should be aligned around to drive your purpose, your company's purpose, why we exist and what we do best is what I like to say. Your purpose is why we exist and what we do best. And we do those things to the exclusion of all of the other good things that we could be doing that keep us from doing the great things we should be doing. Number three, third part of a strategic plan, CEO strategic plan, is clear goals. Clear goals, right? These are the signposts on the path. So these are how you know you're on track, right? Are we on track or are we off track? Well, if you don't have clear goals, you or your team won't know what those are. And I find so often that in the hiring process, people are not actually communicating their organization's goals to the people they're hiring. And then somehow they hire those people expecting them to help them hit those goals. And then finally, what's your big impact, right? Your big impact. This is the number one goal everybody in the organization is rowing towards. It's like your North Star. It's how you know that you're actually achieving traction in the direction of your big vision. And it is meant to inspire, right? Not all organizations have this, but all organizations that have exponential growth typically have a big impact goal that everybody in the organization is laser focused on, right? On achieving. So when you have these elements put together, guys, you really end up with this really clear strategic plan that allows you to do two things, okay? Number one is actually go out and clearly communicate your vision to the market in a way that's actually going to attract a better caliber of candidate. By the way, almost all of the A players that we've helped our clients recruit, almost all of them, did not come to our client's entrepreneurial company because they had the best healthcare plan. Did not come to our client's entrepreneurial company because they had the best benefits package or even the highest salary. They came because there was a vision and a culture and a growth opportunity that they wanted to be a part of. And those are the people that not only can you attract the best, but you can actually retain them. Because if you attract someone to your organization who's there because of money only, I can guarantee you as soon as a competitor offers them 5 figures more, you're out of a person. And this is why it's so important to have this plan as a tool for recruiting. Secondly, it's also the thing that you use to actually review and evaluate your people's performance around, know if they're on track, right? These are the things you use to actually build your processes to ultimately achieve the strategic plan and move towards your vision. All right, which is a great segue into talking about A-player hiring, because this is where we start to get really systematic. The vision stuff for some people is kind of woo-woo, Tony Robbins-esque, but this is where we really start to talk about, like, how do we actually hire A-players? What does that look like practically? What processes do we need to have in place? And how would I know that I'm hiring somebody who's actually an A-player who I can trust? Okay, so I'm sure we won't tackle every facet and every question of that today, but let me give you guys a couple tips, okay? So the first thing I want to help you understand is when we think about A-players, the first level of the organization that I'm always going to start with is the leadership team, okay? Because here's the thing, as goes the leadership team, so goes the rest of the organization. So like you'll never have A players at the bottom level of your org chart or your organization if you have a subpar, mediocre leadership team. It's just the truth. I've never been a part of an organization where there's like a really, really terrible leadership or management team in place and they just have absolute rock stars at other levels of the organization. It just doesn't work that way. As goes the leadership team, so goes the rest of the organization. So we have to start by making sure we get self-managing A players in place here, and then we model that and lead that to the rest of the organization. Now, what I put on the computer, as you can see in front of you, is what I like to refer to as the utopic self-managing leadership team, where it's like, man, in utopia, this is what it would look like perfectly 100% of the time. As we all know, entrepreneurship is not utopia. And it's not, for every company listening, not everyone's going to have the capacity, the budget, or is even in a stage of growth where they would be able to have one unique person sitting in each of these seats. Okay, so don't let this scare you, right? But at the same time, I want it to set a vision for you of what's possible, which is to have a self-managing team of A players at the leadership level. So just a high level overview this, right? Before we talk about hiring, we have to actually talk about what are we hiring them into? What's the structure? And so here's kind of the roles that I've seen most successfully in self-managing leadership teams, right? So we have the very top level, which is the CEO, supported by typically a great executive administrative assistant and a board of advisors, right? Very, very key. They have the admin support and they have the counsel and advice and strategic support that they need, right? CEOs should not be leading in isolation. They need administrative support and they need strategic support. And that's what we see at kind of the best levels of the organization. Then we have what's typically referred to as the GM, very different than typically an entrepreneurial CEO, whereas the CEO is focused on the future, focused on growth, focused on marketing initiatives, big relationships, big sales, expansion. That's what a CEO typically, who is also an entrepreneur, wants to be focused on. The general manager is focused on processes, leading and managing and holding people accountable, on executing the business plan, running and managing the day-to-day, making sure that the P&L is in line with the profitability goals of the company, right? And then honestly, they are chief problem solver, right? So issues come up, big strategic issues. They solve big strategic problems and manage cross-functional projects, okay? Very, very important that this person is in place. And even if you're playing both the CEO and GM role in your company, you have to understand that the roles are very distinct. And any great company actually needs both. The CEO spends about 80% of their time working on the business. The general manager spends about 80% of their time working in the business, right? Managing people, same paging expectations, communication, all of those sorts of things, okay? And then we have like the typical kind of simplified C-suite. But in an entrepreneurial company, we have, chief revenue officer. Sometimes it's split into sales and marketing. COO, sometimes it's split into, tech and processes versus people, customer service, and then CFO, right? Which sometimes can split into people as well, HR, and then more numbers, data, legal, accounting, et cetera, right? So this is like a very simplified version. Every company is unique, but when you look at this structure, what I want to communicate is it's very important when you think about hiring an A player that you assess your gaps. Okay. It's not just enough to hire willy-nilly and go, yeah, we need to increase capacity. But specifically, which one of these functions is unfilled, under-resourced, or you're the solve and you shouldn't be. You're sitting in that seat and you shouldn't be sitting in that seat, and you know it. And the company is suffering because of it, right? Or it's capped. Or you're just literally having the life sucked out of you by energy vampire tasks that you can't stand, but somebody's got to do them, okay? I would encourage you guys to look at this chart and really assess, where are the gaps? Where are we lacking? Where would you guys identify you maybe have the biggest gap right now in your leadership team, whether or not you can afford to hire the role or fill the role right now? But the thing, guys, I want to just communicate is that in an entrepreneurial company, there's always a yin and yang, right? There's a yin and yang between the entrepreneur's drive for growth and progress and speed of execution, and the implementer's drive for stability, consistency, processes, right? Repeatability. And we need both, okay, to have the yin and yang. We need both. And so that being said, I really want to encourage you guys just to understand that as we're building these self-managing leadership teams, there's going to be some healthy tension, right? Between the entrepreneur and some of these more implementation personalities. And that's why we've got to do this hiring systems things right so that we can actually work together in harmony. Okay. So that being said, guys, I'm going to move through this pretty fast. How do you know who to hire and when? This is the most common question I get asked when people are going, okay, I know I need to hire an A player, but who and when? And let me just give you guys some kind of general guidelines and numbers that I found, right? So if your company's very early stage or young, small, you're just a small business, you're in the 250 to 500K range. If you do not have an executive administrative assistant, my goodness, that one implementation focused hire can change your life. That implementer role, somebody who can take administrative weight off of your plate, can literally change your life. We've seen that literally double businesses before, right? If you're between kind of 500K to $1 million, you maybe need to be looking at an operations manager, somebody who can take some of that operational weight off of your plate as a CEO and leader. If you're between 1 and 5 million, we oftentimes find that's the right time to hire a true COO. Okay. And if you're kind of between 5 to 10 million or beyond, you oftentimes need to start looking at that GM role, that president role. Okay. Because that's going to be a big gap as your team continues to sophisticate. Okay. So how do you find these people? This is the other big question that I get. People ask questions like, hey, so, do you guys, do we use Indeed? Do we use ZipRecruiter? Do we use monster.com? Do we just randomly try to find people? Do we put stuff on bulletin boards? How do I find A players? Okay. And I wish there was just a simple, easy answer for you, but let me tell you what we found after hiring hundreds of, leadership team level hires for our clients. Okay. Number one is the answer is all of the above. Okay. So here's what I've found is that if you want to hire an A player, you need to fill the funnel with as many qualified candidates as possible. So you have an abundance to choose from and can screen down. Typically, when we work with clients, we're oftentimes screening 100 to 200 possible people to pick one, to find 3 to 5 hyper qualified candidates to ultimately choose one. Okay. So how do you actually get that level of abundance in your hiring process? Well, let me tell you this. You need to be leveraging and tapping into your network, using that vision and strategic plan we talked about to actually put the word out to your network. You'd be amazed how if you put your vision on paper and send it out to the people in your network, and we have some very strategic ways we teach clients to do this. We write the copy with them, and we call it a candidate attraction campaign, right? Out to your network. You will be amazed the people who come out of the woodwork in response to your vision, many of whom are not always even just looking for a job, but they're looking for their next growth opportunity. All right. And that's what A players are looking for. All right. Another thing to tap into is, for our clients, we tap into our network, right? So we've intentionally seeded ourselves in some of the best entrepreneurial networks on the planet and done that so that we can actually get in front of a large number of entrepreneurial leaders across the planet when the right client's opportunity comes up and the right gap is in their leadership team. So tap into other entrepreneurial networks you're in, right? Look at, leadership development environments you're in, environments where CEOs, entrepreneurs, executives, their teams are running in. There's so many of these, and some of the best hires come out of these places, not off of in.com. But then we also do leverage other people's networks. Indeed, ZipRecruiter, so many of, sometimes there's even industry specific sites that you'll want to look at and use for finding top talent. Use all of the above, guys. So use a wide top of funnel, and then make sure you have a really effective filtering process in place. In fact, on here and in the stuff we'll send out, Michael, to anybody who joins your course, we have a very detailed 16-step A player hiring workflow that every single candidate goes through before they ever make it in front of one of our clients. All right. And not only is this workflow really thorough, but the best part is it's delegatable. And we'll show you guys in some of the follow-up stuff how to delegate a large percentage of this process so you can actually end up with repeatable, amazing A player hires. But self-managing team systems. The biggest thing I want to accentuate here before we go into Q&A, guys, is that it's very important not just to hire great people, but to actually set them up to be self-managing. You got to do a couple things well. Okay. Number one, you need to make sure you have a great onboarding process in place. This is step one. And in onboarding, actually really in every step of this process I'm about to walk through, there's intentional things that you need to be focused on. So onboarding is one. Okay. And then measuring is next. So a lot of CEOs I talk to, they'll tell me something like, well, I hired this guy to help me with operations, or I hired someone and it's been 6 months and I'm just not sure it's working out. And I go, you're telling me it's been 6 months and you didn't know this guy wasn't going to work out? I can tell you for a fact that with our clients, we know if somebody's going to work out within 30 days in a role, okay, within 30 days. So how do you do that? Well, you have very clear measurables attached to success. You know exactly what the success profile is for the role, and you know exactly what your expectations are as far as when people have to hit certain benchmarks to demonstrate that they're actually on track to be the person you need them to be, right? Specific goals, specific measurables. So you're onboarding and then you're measuring within 30 days and then another 30 days and then another 30 days before you move to an actual kind of 90-day review process. Okay. Then meeting, right? Onboarding, measuring, meeting. Make sure you have very clear opportunities for this person to meet, very clear structures for how they meet with anybody who reports to them and how they meet with you. I can't tell you how many organizations I walk into and I'm like, what's your meeting structure? They're like, well, we have this meeting, we do this meeting, we do this meeting. And I'm like, that's not what I asked you. I said, what's your meeting structure? and they don't know the answer, right? So it's like you need to have an intentional cadence of meetings that allows expectations, goals, metrics to filter all the way down through the organization and make sure that people are actually clear, right? When you do this, people have the ability to self-manage. When you don't do this, you're constantly getting barraged with text messages and questions and people knocking on the door of your office because they're just not clear, right? And aligned and on the same page. And then lastly, optimizing, okay? And this is where you move into that 90-day cycle of every 90 days, reviewing someone against the success profile, the metrics, and the processes you've defined they're responsible for. And then you're consistently, based on if they're above and below the bar in those areas, giving them a personal development plan for the next quarter based on those things. So this is how you constantly optimize your team's performance to just get better and better and better. And in every step of this process, you need to be communicating and re-communicating team vision, cultural habits, 90-day goals, clear expectations, and holding them accountable to them.
Someone might say, what does a meeting structure look like? And so if Richard were to ask me that question, I would say, okay, so first of all, we have annual strategic planning meetings. We have quarterly strategic planning meetings. We have monthly meetings to check in on each quarter to see if we're meeting our goals. We have weekly planning meetings to make sure that each month we're working towards achieving the goals that have to be achieved in that month to be able to achieve the goals that are going to happen in the quarter that are going to be able to achieve the goals that are happening for the annual year. And sometimes we do this even weekly and maybe even daily huddles, little 10-minute daily huddles to check in on what's going on in the team. So you need a meeting structure, like Richard said. These are management processes. So many companies we work with have no management processes. They don't know how to manage. We have agenda samples, structures, formats, processes for all of this meeting structure that Richard is speaking to. Such a critical thing. So I just wanted to, some people might not know what a meeting structure is. And that's basically what I just rolled out there.
Just a recap today, and then we'll open it up for Q&A. People ask me all the time, right? How do you recruit and hire A players, right? It's really the essence of what we do for leadership teams of, entrepreneurial kind of growth oriented companies. And for me, it comes down to number one, are you willing to let go of control and actually achieve growth? Okay. Number two, have you defined a strategic plan and a vision that actually allows you to put more than just a job in front of someone, but a true growth opportunity, right? Number two, right? I guess maybe this is number three now, right? Do you actually have a clear structure and success profile for who you need? And do you have a process to sift through a high volume of candidates to actually find the ones who are truly a great fit? And then lastly, right, do you have a plan to actually onboard, measure, train, meet with, and optimize that person's performance so that you actually end up getting the ROI and the results out of that role that you're ultimately looking for? So I hope, guys, you'll take that to heart today and even just take one or two key nuggets from that you might just be missing or haven't been doing the way you want to lately, and then put it in your company. I hope it helps you free up time to focus on growth and be the CEO.
I also want to add to this, Richard, how important it is. There's a book written by a guy named Brad Smart called Top Grading. And this guy's done the research. I haven't done the research. I just read the book. But basically, he says that 3 out of 4 hires in companies are mishires. That means that 75% of the time, you're hiring the wrong person for the position. And they're either going to quit, or you're going to fire them, or they're going to sort of just stay in your business as underperformers, which is like the worst thing that could happen. But that goes away if you've got recruiting and hiring processes, onboarding and training processes, managing and evaluation processes, and lots of candidates in the funnel. If you're not, how many people, Richard, when you're talking to them, when they're about to hire someone, they get one candidate and then they go, well, I need someone. It'll be okay. I'll just have him come in. That's like, how can you do that?
It blows my mind, man. We have clients say that to us all the time. They're like, well, I think I found my person. Like I just went and I found this person the other day and I think they're the one.
Yeah, he's my sister's brother.
They're the only one
you interviewed.
And then it's so funny. If we could kind of talk those people off the ledge, the first one looks a lot different after you've interviewed, 7 or 8 others. You're just way more informed. You're like, wow, now I actually know a lot more what I need. And that first person didn't look nearly as good. It's kind of like the old adage, right? Like any food looks good to a man who is hungry, right? And so it's like, if you actually need someone and are desperate, you have to understand that makes you unobjective, which is very dangerous when it comes to hiring. It can be very expensive. Yeah.
And most of the people we talk to are very hungry. They're overwhelmed. They need someone, but their experience of finding that person to date has been unsuccessful. It's kind of like what Brad Smart says, but it's because this doesn't happen magically. This is not something, you don't just get lucky. You follow a process, and we've got those processes for you. And it's not rocket science. It's simple. It's not easy. It's one of the things I say, because it's not easy to do. And if it was easy to do, anybody could do it. We'd all be doing it. Every company out there would be super successful, tons of money coming in, the life of Riley. That's not what it is. And I'll bet you everyone on the call right now is blaming themselves for their inability to make this happen. And it's not you. It's just the mindset that you're following, that it's going to be luck, that I just have to hire one person. You've got to have the processes. You've got to start thinking procedurally. And if you do that and you follow these steps and you do the best you can, then it starts to happen. So I just wanted to add that in. If you want to add anything else, Richard.
No, that's so good. So good, Michael. And I would say, just to add to that too, one of the things that you and I have talked about before that's so good is like vision without systems equals inconsistent. Well, if you have great people, great vision, but poor systems or no process, you'll end up with inconsistent great results. If you have a great vision, great people, great processes, you can actually get consistent great results. And so the thing I would say to everybody who's here is, again, Michael said it, but like the more you can get clear on your vision and your strategic plan, which is step 1 in systemscaping, right? Get clear on the structure you actually need to scale without you being at the center of your business. And then get clear on the processes you need to actually empower those people, to hire, train, and empower those people. Man, building a business that's not dependent on you truly is possible. And it just becomes a lot more fun. And you just get so much more done.
Yeah. So if anybody has a question, type it into the chat box. One of the things I want to piggyback on what you said about inconsistent great results. You can't scale that because there's no baseline. You can't say that if I put this message out using this channel and then we get 10 leads from executing that process, and if we follow up on those 10 leads with this follow-up process, we get 6 appointments. And if we follow this appointment process, we get 3 deals worth X amount of dollars. That's a baseline following a process. If nobody's following any processes, you can't tell me what your KPIs are. You can't, and that doesn't even matter if you could, because you're not following the same process. You can't tell me that this equals that. And that's how you scale a company, because you have consistency. And the last thing I'll say is about the vision piece, because so few people get this. So few people, and that's where Richard starts. That's where we start. If you don't have a vision, how do you get great people on the bus? Because that's what Jim Collins says in Good to Great. You got to get good people on the bus. And what I love about that is a bus is a mode of transportation. You're going from point A to point B. So if you don't know where you're going, how are you ever going to get there? And if you know how when you get on an airplane, they say, well, so we're thank you for coming with us in United Flight. We're headed to Boston Logan today. Wait, I didn't know we were going to Boston. It's like, you can't have that. People need to know where you want to take them, where you're leading. Also, when you're on that bus, it's an enclosed space. If you don't share the same values, if you don't share the same purpose with those people, there's going to be conflict. There's going to be sabotage happening on that bus. So it's so critical that we have vision, mission, purpose, those key elements of a vision that people believe in. Because if they don't believe in your purpose, if they're not waking up with the same beliefs, the same values as you're going to have sabotage. And it's a great way to manage. So if like in my company, one of our beliefs is we do the right thing. That's one of our values. We always do the right thing. If I have a salesperson who's doing something that is not the right thing, I have a conversation with him, a management conversation in our one-on-one management meeting. And I would say, Jeff, that's not how we do things here. You know our values. They're up on the wall. Those are our values. We do the right thing. This is not the right thing. And he's saying, yeah, but I can make so much more commission if I do this and I jack up the price. And no. That's not the right thing. And it helps me to manage him, because if he's out of control, if he doesn't believe in my purpose, my values, my vision, he doesn't belong here. And I can clearly let him go because it doesn't make sense. And it's not an emotional decision. It's a logical decision. So that's why vision is so important. That's why your organizational structure is so important. That's why your processes for hiring, for meetings, the meeting structure that Richard talked about, for onboarding, training, and managing these people. It's, what Richard and I, again, we talk about it. It's not rocket science. It's common sense. You just need to execute. So any questions? And does anybody have any questions, challenges? Do you believe us? When and how much? That's a great question. So when is now? You can start now, Artura. I mean, Artura's company, Artura is a client of ours, a TouchStone client of ours, Richard, and I'm not sure. I haven't talked with her for well over a year, so I'm not sure where she is in her revenue, but she's kind of at the far end of a mature company. But I also know how busy she gets. But Artura, you know what? You need to listen to that control conversation that Richard has. You've got to listen to that control. But also, Artura, I know about your hiring processes, and you're kind of, and you also, that when you're hiring people, do you get tons of candidates in the funnel? I don't think so. That's not what I remember about you. It's sort of like, oh, well, this person needs a job, or, this one of my really good people knows somebody else. And then when that person is onboarded, do you go through your vision, your mission, purpose, and values? Do you make sure they get it? Because if I remember, Artura, you don't have a process for onboarding or for recruiting or for hiring. It's more of like, I don't have time to do this, so let's just bring this person on board, and too busy being chief everything officer. And this is, I'm not picking on you, Artura. Everybody, I know a lot of you out there. I know Gail. I know Victor. I know Skylight. That's Michelle. I know you guys. This is all your challenge, and it's solvable. We can solve it. So
here's what I would say, guys, is for you, Artura, sometimes it's finding something new, and sometimes it's engaging with what the resources you have. So you have a relationship with TouchStone. I would encourage you, like, if you haven't already, like, make a commitment to yourself, like, hey, this is the time I'm gonna stop being chief everything officer. Invest in Mike, or invest in the help you guys need, right? And then, I'm actually going to be doing some private training. I think we forgot to mention this, Mike, but anybody who's part of the Systemscaping course will also we'll be doing some kind of private training with me in the people who join the course. And I'll offer a free consultation to anybody who joins, where if you just want to, kind of go one-to-one on this. And then of course, if our team can help additionally with recruiting needs, we're happy to. So yeah, I would encourage you, like, sign up for Systemscaping, get in there, make a commitment to start working on these processes. And if I can be an assistance in that process, it would be my honor, it'd be our honor to help.
Yeah. So Michelle is saying that I was thinking I needed an executive administrator, and I was thinking of a virtual assistant. So that's sort of the direction you're speaking of. Yes, it is. One of the things that when you say a virtual assistant, that's not really a position on an org chart. Executive administrator is the position. It just happens that they're virtual. So I think that's a virtual assistant means it's someone who's assisting you who's not in your office with you. They're elsewhere. So think of it as an executive administrator who's virtual. And that would be a great position for you. And virtual's great in many cases because they're much less expensive.
Can I make a distinction on that, Michael, that I think is helpful?
Yeah.
Because we have a lot of clients who have sort of bought into the outsourcing. It might be too strong to call it a myth, right? In an entrepreneurial company, it's like, oh, I'll just outsource that. I'll just get somebody overseas to do that. And we leverage some amazing overseas help. Like, we have some great, like, kind of VAs who do certain things, but there's a big distinction you have to make about what your company needs based on your structure. Okay. And if what you need is specific tasks fulfilled in a well-documented SOP, a traditional virtual assistant can work really well. I've seen that, right? Where you plug people in and they run a process, and it's great. If what you need is somebody to actually help you share all of your responsibilities and be intimately in your world, which is what an executive administrative assistant does, that's not an outsourced hire. That's somebody who needs to come in and fully believe and buy into your vision and be able to fully integrate into supporting and helping you. That person's job is actually not to run an SOP. Their job is to actually proactively take stuff off of your plate as it arises. It's all the stuff that isn't always SOP-able. Like, hey, I've got to, and even if it is SOP-able, you may not be the right person to write it. They may be. So it's like, hey, I got a trip that's coming up and I hate coordinating travel. Hey, I can take that. And then they go and figure that out, right? It's, hey, we need to coordinate with all of these different parties and you're bad at communication, project management. The executive admin, it's two people doing one job. And typically for entrepreneurs, they're not strong administratively. And what the executive admin does is they come alongside and actually be the administrative part of your brain for everything that you do. That's what that role typically looks like at its best, in my opinion. And that's very different than just kind of the typical outsource to a VA kind of mindset.
Yeah, that's a great distinction, Richard. I appreciate you sharing that. Because that's a situation where the CEO, the business owner, they don't even know quite what they want to share. They don't have those SOPs. A lot of administrative assistants, they have to be detail oriented. So this is one of the things that you're going to make sure that you do when you hire someone who's an administrative assistant. Are they like you, or do they have the characteristics of the position that you need to hire? Because if they're like you, it's going to be a mess. It'll never work again. And so many people hire because they like them. They're just like me. They're, I want this person in my office because they're just like me. That doesn't work. That friction that you were talking about before, that's how you can get something done, because they're different. They're detail oriented. They're going to get those details taken care of. So,
very, very important.
Yeah. Well, we're a few minutes past the hour. Anybody, any other questions? Okay, so let's wrap it up. Richard, thank you for being with me today. And I'm really excited about the offer that you're giving us for the Systemscaping course. It's a super fabulous bonus. I mean, it's basically what Richard is bringing to this course has more value than what you're paying for the course. So you could literally, when you jump into the course, you'll be getting all of this great stuff that Richard is providing, and then essentially getting the course for free. So thank you for offering that, and we'll build this into the like the vision. I'll build these processes into the vision part. I'll build the organizational structure ideas into the organizational structure part. Then we have a whole session on recruiting, hiring, and we'll take those processes. That I think comes in probably in week 5 or 6 of the course. So I will end by a quick promo of the Systemscaping course. We're starting on October 7th. I'm shutting down the cart to purchase this course next Wednesday. You can't buy it after Wednesday. I'm not doing another course this year. This is the only one we're doing this year. I don't have a course planned for next year yet. I can only take 20 companies because of the level of personal attention that we provide in the course. It's a 10-week course. We meet once a week for 90 minutes as a group. You will be meeting with colleagues and other entrepreneurs who are in similar situations as you are, but in varying scales. So there'll be people there that have businesses that do $100,000, and there'll be people there that are doing $10 million. And there's similar strengths and challenges. And really the only difference between the $10 million guy and the $100,000 guy is that they've been doing things longer and they've been following some guidelines longer than you have. So I just invite you to consider it. Any closing words for you, Richard?
No, it was an honor to serve you guys today, and hope to see you guys again in the near future.
Okay. Thank you, everybody, for attending. Thank you, Richard. We'll talk soon, okay?